Well, Shabbat Shalom. I want to welcome everyone to the Sabbath Day conference call. This is Barbara, and I'm serving as your host today. We want to welcome all our family and friends that are here today on the phone or on the Internet. And if you're listening to the YouTube recording, we want to welcome you. We invite everyone to go to the website, lunarsabbathday.com. It's a great source of information about the Creator Sabbath. There's videos there, articles, everything is scripture-based, and you can also find historical facts about the calendar. So today our discussion about the timekeeping system is we have a fellow believer here, Brother Jake. He's part of our fellowship group. Some of you may not have heard his voice before, but he is often on the conference call with us, and he was here at Sukkot with us. So Brother Jake has a special testimony today, and he is on the phone with us. So welcome, Brother Jake.
Thank you for this opportunity, and Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I would like to give out a disclaimer. I'm not the greatest speaker, so I don't have a great speaking ability. I always have a stage fright or speaking in public. I have a fear of speaking in public, so please forgive me if sometimes I stumble because I am bilingual. I speak Russian and I speak English, and sometimes the words intermix, and I just am looking for a word in English. I'm thinking in Russian, and I'm trying to translate it in my head in English. So I apologize for sometimes when I would speak, I would just stop and take a little break and then continue speaking. And also, this testimony, again, I would like to underline, this testimony is not to express how smart I am, but also there's a greater point that I'm trying to relay here. I drive a small truck for a living that does not require special licensing. I do expedited service from manufacturer to manufacturer, and so last year I wanted to do to step up the ladder and acquire a CDL license. And without really studying, I went to BMV and took all 5 tests, and I passed it within an hour. Now, let me remind you, this is not a very easy test to pass. Some people take, 4 to 6 months to study before they can take the test and get their CDL. Because I'm driving all the time, and I know the rules of the road, and a lot of it is logic, it was very easy for me to go to BMV and just take the test, and I passed it within an hour. And the clerk that was there at the BMV, she was very amazed at like how fast you went and took all these tests and you just passed within an hour. And I said, well, because I drive for a living and I understand the principles and everything else. So I got my certificate. I was happy, and then within a couple of weeks, I got a job that does not require CDL, so I just kind of like started driving for another company, and I let it go. Well, this story is not about a CDL. This story is about the Sabbath. And let me link my story so you understand what I'm talking about. So, just last week, I met this person that offered me a job to drive that does not require CDL. It only requires a chauffeur's license, which is a very easy test to pass. That contains over probably about 25 questions. Now, let me remind you, to go through CDL test, you have to answer about 275 to 300 questions, which are very hard in technical and also rules of the road and air brakes and all that. This test is very simple. It only takes 25 answers and you're done. Well, because I'm absent-minded, last weekend was the new moon day. For some reason, I missed that. In my mind, I thought that was only the third quarter of the month. So I thought that next week will be the new moon day and that I'm on the right track. So I rested on last Sabbath, and I slept very well that night. I was very well rested, and next Sunday I went to work. Somebody asked me to do some things, and I was working very hard physically, disregarding, not knowing or not remembering that it was the new moon day. So all day I spent working. And next week, the whole week, I am preparing to start a new job. I'm thinking to myself, it doesn't really take much to go to BMV and just answer these 25 questions and get it over with and get my chauffeur's license. Well, starting on Tuesday, I go to BMV, I sit down, I try to take the test, and I just cannot understand the questions. In my head, everything is so confusing. I am confused. I'm tired. For some reason, I cannot concentrate. I can't get to answer the question. Every question that I answer is wrong. So I fail once. Then comes the next day. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to come back. Maybe I didn't sleep right, or maybe I didn't eat something that makes my head to be confused. Let's try again. So I come next day, same thing, same outcome. I just can't pass the test. 3 days in a row, I just could not concentrate. I could not even, get to the half point of the test without losing, because I was continuing to answer the wrong questions. I mean, giving the wrong answers. So 3 days in a row, I'm like, with the on the third time of trying, I was mad at myself thinking, Jake, come on, did you just get stupid overnight? What is this? What's going on? I mean, this is a very simple test that you can't answer these single questions? Well, after that night, at that point, I didn't understand why. But at night, I was driving home. I looked up, and I saw the moon, and I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. Tomorrow's Sabbath. Why is the moon looks like it's only 35 to 40% illuminated? Something is off. Then I realized why. I started looking at I have a little app that tells me, what the phases of the moons are, and you can also look it up. But when you're practicing keeping the lunar Sabbath, you already know. You look up at the moon, you already know that it gives you a signal that, if the moon is 48 to 49% illuminated, next day is the Sabbath. That's why I realized something was off. So when I looked at my app, I realized, wait a minute, when was the new moon day? Well, I quickly realized that I completely skipped and did not rest. I spent the whole day working. That's why my body was completely exhausted. So I came home. I shared my story with my sister, and I told her, because I already shared the story many times with my sister, and I told her, you know, I couldn't pass for 3 days. I was actually like ashamed at myself. Like, why can't I pass this simple test? You know, so I was keeping quiet, like trying to keep it, you know, to myself, that I just can't pass the test, without realizing that. Why? Because my body, my mind was very exhausted. And so, and then I came home and I shared the story with my sister, and she's like, well, I don't keep the lunar Sabbath. But why that does not happen to me? You know, you're telling me something that's not, you're making all this up, basically. And then I realized why some people don't feel this effect. It's like if you have an alcoholic that constantly drinking every day, his body gets used to all this abuse, and when he drinks a great amount of alcohol, he doesn't get sick next morning because his body is used to it. Well, it's the same thing with the Sabbath keepers. If you're keeping the Sabbath and you are on this cycle, your body gets used to it because you are aligned with nature. If you break the cycle, you start feeling the effects of it immediately. Then I realized. Then I started searching for a verse in scriptures, and now I understand the Revelation 14:11. And can someone please read Revelation 14:11, and I will continue. Can we have a volunteer to read Revelation 14:11?
I'll read it for you. This is Catherine.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Revelation 14:11. Well, let's see. I'm doing this from Eastward.
Okay.
Okay, and this is from the Scriptures 2009 version. Revelation 14:11. And the smoke of their torture goes up forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night, those worshiping the beast and his image. Also, if anyone receives the mark of his name.
Okay, so we have Revelation 14 that starts out with, and the smoke of their torment ascended up forever and ever. And then the second part, and they have no rest or night to worship or accept authority of the beast and the image, and whoever received the mark of his name. A lot of people think that this verse is somehow correlated and it's one verse or one message. Well, if you study a little bit Hebrew mindset, you will realize that the first portion of this verse is the future. But the second portion of the verse is the present. So let's read again. The second part. And they have no rest day nor night, who worship or accept authority of. That's what I understood and had a translation, who accept the authority of the beast and his image, and whoever receiveth the mark of his name. So, I'm not going to use a rocket science. I'm just going to use a very simple example. You know, one, if you can solve 2 plus 2, you can solve this. Anybody can solve this. A moon regulates Earth magnetic field. An Earth magnetic field regulates radio waves. Now, how do I know this? Well, I didn't really go into the study. I kind of put 2 and 2 together. And I was talking to my brother-in-law. He was in a Russian army. He was a radio operator. When I told him this, he's like, yeah, that's true. Because when I was in the army, they gave us a chart to use a certain frequency based on the lunar phases. And he turned to me and he said, how did you know that? I said, it's just logic. You know, it has to be. He's like, yeah, you're right. So the Earth magnetic field is regulated by the moon. The moon regulates the radio waves and also fluctuations of electricity. What does our brain run on? Electricity. So talking about corruption of DNA. Now, if we live on this earth and the gravity is affecting us, the moon affects the gravity and also Earth magnetic field and all the radio waves, can we link all this to human DNA? Of course we can. So now I understand fully Revelation 14:11, what it means. They had no rest, day nor night. Why? Because it's impossible. It's simply impossible for someone to rest if they are violating the grand design. And so anyone that is on this call that does not believe in keeping the Sabbath, or especially keeping the Sabbath based on a lunar cycle, which is the original calendar of our Creator, please, I urge you to lift up your heads to heaven and look at the wonders and ask yourself a question. Am I missing something? And I will answer, of course you are. You're missing the rest. The grand design that was put in place as a blueprint for human DNA. Talking about corrupted human DNA? Well, of course. This is why in Revelation chapter 11, chapter 14, verse 11, this is why they had no rest day or night, because it's simply impossible if you're violating a grand design. Amen. And this is the, I will close with this. Please understand, we are touching just a tip of the iceberg. If anyone is interested, I urge you to go and to study the human DNA and how it is all connected, and it's connected to the cycles of the moon. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you so much, Brother Jake, and for everyone for listening in today. And for those of you that are here, please stay around for discussion.